Halifax Sports Talk weekend preview. We got a good one for you guys here, and we are live across X, and we are ready to rock and roll. We've got St. Mary's Huskies taking on the number one seed, the Saskatchewan Huskies, tonight. U Sports, Halifax Metro Center, Scotiabank Center, I guess, here, Dayton. Andrew and Dayton with you guys. Thunderbirds, are they still alive? We'll talk about that. And the Halifax Mooseheads, they're on the rock for this weekend. We say it every weekend, but man, I'll tell you what, Dayton, this is a big weekend in Halifax sports.
Andrew, I thought you were going to say the Mooseheads are on the road, but no, I like that better. They're on the rock. It's a big weekend for Halifax sports, and they were posting, U Sports was posting all weekend, the calm before the storm. Well, the storm is here. Let's get right into it. But I guess we'll talk about the Thunderbirds first, because Jeremy's here, like every Thursday.
Yes, we're always happy to have Jeremy here, and hopefully Jeremy can channel his inner therapist, because I need him to explain to me if they are still alive or not, this Thunderbirds team. What an environment it was to be at. What an awesome game to see in overtime. Just did not end the way we would have liked it to end last weekend, Jeremy. So without turning into mathematicians here and crunching all the numbers, I'm going to just start off with this. Is there still a chance for this Halifax Thunderbirds team?
Yes. And I know, I maybe get accused of being too overly optimistic. Not the result that we wanted here last weekend, but it's not the end of the world, right? Another 1-goal loss. I think the last 3 that the Thunderbirds have dropped have all been 1-goal losses, which is, I guess you get a little bit of solace in a stat like that, but it doesn't get you any points, right? Even an overtime loss, it's not like in the NHL, you don't get any points for that. So unfortunately, it didn't go the way we wanted. It was a really exciting game, though. There's some really awesome goals. Both goalies played quite well, faced, upwards of close to 60 shots each. So a great game, not the result we wanted, but to your point, we don't actually have to be mathematicians just yet. If you look at the standings so far, they look pretty similar to what they looked like last week, except Saskatchewan, the top team in the league, they have clinched a playoff berth. They're the only team that has, though, even though there's a few, like Vancouver's only one win lower than them. They've got 10 wins, 4 losses. They're obviously going to make the playoffs, but it's still not mathematically a certainty. Just like Philadelphia, who is the lowest ranked team in the league with only 3 wins, they're not mathematically out. So Halifax at 5 and 8, they are not out. We're looking at Las Vegas and Rochester 5 and 7. They're right, kind of just above us because they've played one last game, so they have one less loss. But San Diego in that last playoff spot, they're 6 and 7. We're 5 and 8. We're not that far out of a playoff berth, so no, it's not over just yet.
So Jeremy, what I'm hearing is the 2 games against Philly and Rochester, very crucial. And if the Thunderbirds could possibly pull out an upset win somewhere along the lines, whether it be Georgia, whether it be one of the other teams that are on the line, do you think the season could still be up for grabs and a playoff spot could be on the line? Could they move up into a playoff spot that might not be maybe the 6th or 7th seed, but maybe like the 5th or 6th, or are they too many wins back?
Well, it really depends on how these next few games go. And as you mentioned, right, so we do have Philadelphia, not this week, but the week after. They are the lowest ranked team in the league, although they've gotten a win or 2 recently. But another team that is one of the higher ranked teams, which is Georgia. That's who we're playing this weekend. We do have a loss to them already this year, and they have been quite the team, but they went on a 6-game win streak, and then they lost their last 2. So it's kind of similar to Halifax in that now is really crunch time for them. They don't want to lose any really good footing that they might have had heading into the playoffs, firmly in a playoff spot, but they don't want to, end up with the last spot or something like that. So Halifax and Georgia are going to meet in Georgia, and it's going to be, not necessarily do or die, but a very pivotal game for both teams. After that, like we talked about, Philadelphia, that should be one where Halifax, has a pretty good chance of coming away with a win. Rochester follows up the week after that. I believe that's the East Coast Kitchen Party, so that's always a fun night at the Nest. That could be another one. And then Vancouver and Ottawa to close out the season. Those are 2 tough teams. But maybe we see Vancouver that's taken their foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe they're resting some guys. That would be good for us. And Ottawa is, they are a team that that has done quite well this year, but they've been pretty hit or miss. And Halifax even, I believe, got a win against them earlier this year. So, we've come out of that stretch where we had about 5 games where I had identified earlier in the season. I thought we could do pretty well. And we got a couple of wins there, so that's good. We've got 5 games remaining. They all count. Again, Georgia's kind of slumping at the moment, so it might be a really good time for Halifax to meet them. Philadelphia, one of the lower ranked teams in the league. Rochester right there with Halifax, a team we know we can beat. And then Vancouver and Ottawa, if everything's on the line and momentum's behind the Thunderbirds, I could see good results for those as well. So yeah, every game counts here for the next 5 weeks, and Halifax Thunderbirds just need to show up the way they have over the last few weeks, and not like that slump that we had earlier this season. And we could be seeing playoff lacrosse in Halifax, or Halifax playing playoff lacrosse once again in 2026.
Well, Jeremy, last weekend, Andrew was talking about the transition offense and how well Halifax's offense works in transition. I don't know if it was Pedersen that capped off that amazing play. It was a pass from the D zone all the way to the end zone in the offensive zone right in front, and he buries it. It just showed Andrew's point, proved it right there. What an amazing play.
Yeah, the transition's been good. I mean, I've mentioned Brendan Bonberry a few times. He came away with 2 goals and 2 assists. He's really stepped up into the space that's been left open with Stotts out. I mean, we're obviously hoping to have Stotts come back. He was way up there, right? Peterson is I believe now the top goal scorer, point getter for the team, but Stotts has had some big nights, and we've been missing him the last couple of weeks. So it's very important that he comes back. But again, with him out, anytime a key player goes out, you need somebody to step up, and Bonberry's done that, right? And he's played great in transition. He's played great with on that top end line, right, with guys like Jameson and Peterson. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that making that work has been a really is a really important part of Halifax's offense, and it was firing this past week, right? Unfortunately, Toronto just wouldn't go away. They wouldn't give up, and I think they knew that they wanted those points just as bad as Halifax did. And in overtime, lacrosse is a game that when you have that sudden victory, you expect that overtime's not going to last very long. This one actually went back and forth quite a bit, but I sat there just thinking, oh my gosh, like I can't possibly imagine that this is going to go our way. And that even when it was in offense, I was thinking they're going to throw the ball, Toronto's going to pick it up and they're going to send it down, much like you were discussing there just a second ago, like that quick transition. Unfortunately, that is kind of what ended up happening. We didn't, get the result we wanted. It is another overtime loss, but it kind of shows, right, that with that transition working, defense has been good. Goaltending obviously has been really good. And even with Stotts out, the offense is still playing as well, but that transition is that key to bringing it all together for sure.
Yeah, to me, it's just about starting off on a good note. Like if they could play how they play in the second half for the full game, this would be a whole different team. And you never like to say that about teams, because obviously some teams have trouble closing out games, and unfortunately they couldn't close it out when they blew their lead. But the first half's been a little bit of an issue here. But look, obviously you remain optimistic. We've all loved your optimism here. And with the way that it's worked out, besides the top couple teams, it seems like everybody else has that similar record. So there's still time for them. If they can pull this off, it would be amazing. And, it's just, I will say this, it was definitely a collective effort. Like Peterson played well, and they got multiple guys that stepped up. But what will it take this weekend, Jeremy? And I'll ask you the 2-parter here for this one. What will it take for them to get a job done? Low scoring, high scoring? What's your score prediction for this week?
So we're going up against what may be, statistically the best goalie in the league, right? I mean, I do think Warren Hill is playing exceptionally, but you can't be too biased for your own guys, right? And Brett Dobson has played really well. He played well against Halifax in their first game. There's got to be a lot of shots on him, right? The offense has to really pepper a goalie like that to be able to, get the kind of numbers that you need in order to win a lacrosse game against that team. But again, as I mentioned, like their their offense has really trailed off, right? So an interesting stat that I read was when they were winning, right? Because they went on a 6-game win streak and they were really scoring at a high pace. They had 10 plus goals in all of those wins. And now in the last 2 games that they've lost, they've only scored a total of 12 goals across 2 games, right? So that their offense, for whatever reason, has just fallen off a cliff. And they've still got, guys like Shane Jackson and Lyle Thompson in the game. So the offense just isn't working the way it was. So if Halifax can get to Dobson early, or just keep the pressure on him offensively with a lot of shots, those should turn into goals. And if Georgia isn't scoring at the clip that they were earlier, and they're more in line with what they have been over the last couple of games, then Halifax has a really good chance here. We need a lot of shots on them. We need tough D, because Georgia, as we know, can score. They just haven't over the last couple of games. So I would like to see a tough defensive effort. I would like to see that transition working, as you guys have mentioned here earlier, pushing the ball into the offensive zone as quick as possible and getting as many shots as we can. And provided we do that, we set ourselves up for a pretty good chance of getting a decent number of goals and keeping Georgia from besting us by 1 goal. Or I believe when we played Georgia beat us by a few. But that has kind of been the story over our last few losses, is just losing by 1 goal, getting really close, but not close enough.
1 goal. It's like you said, been the story of the season. The one against Toronto, 13-14. It's tough. You look, and it's an overtime game as well. And it's one of those games where you come back and it's like, oh, well, they were down and now they've worked themselves back into a tie game, and you go to overtime and you let it fall through. And it's like the tension just builds up, and then the floor just falls beneath them. I don't know. It's tough to see. It's tough to see, Jeremy.
Yeah. And it's, I think you guys had mentioned last week at some point about it was similar to the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like they had the most wins where it was within like a field goal, right? Then of course they went to the Super Bowl and the Eagles just ate them up, right? And any of us Eagles fans could have told you that was going to happen, because that was the case, right? This is a team that was only barely winning. Halifax is sort of the flip on that, right? They're a team that's very good, that has a losing record, because they probably have more 1-goal losses than anybody else, right? They're not getting blown out. We've been saying this for forever, right? Even before the last couple of losses. When they're in all of these games, even if it is more than a goal, they lose by 3 or they lose by 4, they're always in the game, and they look just as good as anybody, right? Now there's a couple of teams that are there's Vancouver here coming up that we haven't seen Halifax go toe to toe with yet, but they played everybody else: Saskatchewan, Buffalo, win against Buffalo, and there's some other teams like Colorado they've tested themselves against, Georgia, and they're always able to compete with these teams, even if they don't come away with the win. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's frustrating to see them lose by 1 goal and get so close and then, let it slip through their fingers. But, it's no real cause for concern in terms of the long term of this team. I mean, we even, I'm reading about Casey Wilson nearing being back from that torn ACL. So we'll see him potentially before the end of the year. I mean, how awesome would that be, right? If we had, our newest, the draft pick that we just picked up, if we had him in a Thunderbirds jersey before the year's out, and especially if we were, lucky enough to make our way into the playoffs and have a playoff run. So Halifax looks like a good team, just unfortunately on paper, more losses than wins.
You hate to see it, and the Chiefs didn't even make the playoffs this year, Jeremy. So that's a little bit concerning. It's like one or the other. It's all about closing out games. But we'll talk to you next week, and hopefully when we talk to you next week, the optimism is even better, because they need a win this week. Like I said, the buzz around the Scotiabank Center, everybody said they have to win out. They have to win out. And you could almost just feel like everybody's soul was crushed in that overtime, because how big of a win it really would have been. So we'll talk to you next week, and hopefully we're feeling even better about this Thunderbirds team. And it's fun to be a part of a playoff race, but it'd be a lot more fun if they can get it done.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's a team that's played well. So, I hope that the Halifax fans still enjoyed the game, right? But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's very different, especially downtown, right? Like probably the bar owners are like, oh, great. As soon as they see that everybody wants to go home rather than go out and party, right? So Yeah, we'll hope for a better result this week. I mean, obviously, it's not in Halifax; they're on the road. But my prediction would be that we see a slightly lower scoring game. Halifax, I'm going to stick with them. I'm staying optimistic as I always am. 9-7 Halifax in Georgia. Let's go.
There we go. There we go. It's almost something that we might want to see. It's a game that Halifax might be able to win. Something where there's not too many goals. Something where the fans are a little bit calm throughout the game. They're not nervous, waiting to see if their team's going to be able to come back in this one. So, Jeremy, I wish you the best, and I wish the Thunderbirds the best as well. Let's hope for the best.
As we all do. Okay. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
All right,
See you,
brother.
Jeremy.
Take care. Man, I want to see this team make it. It just was so soul crushing to watch that overtime loss last weekend. I think I was texting you about it, saying how awesome it was, how great of a game it was, and then it ends up going that way that it is. But we got a handful of people here watching us on X, and I'll tell you what, we've got the Huskies versus the Huskies in U Sports National Hockey Championship tournament here, and number 1 seed versus the number 8 seed. This Saskatchewan team, Dayton, 6-0 run during the playoffs. Right now for them, they outscored their opponents during the playoffs. I can't believe this is it. 24-7. Like, this is obviously a juggernaut team that St. Mary's is going up against. But after talking to a lot of people throughout the week, I think it's fair to say that this St. Mary's team is a lot better than a team that got knocked out in the first round. You know, they've gotten healthier. They have a player, Ben Allison, who led the conference in points. I mean, they certainly have a team that's capable of pulling off this upset. We've got a boost for you guys out there at Coolbet Canada from plus 175 up to plus 200 if you guys want to get involved with St. Mary's. They've also done an AUS parlay. So Moncton, UNB, and St. Mary's all to win. So every single AUS representative to win at 10-1 odds, which is a pretty good price there. 10-1 for Moncton, UNB, and St. Mary's to get the job done. But, you know, I remember telling you about this, Dayton, that when St. Mary's hosted the U Sports, this was about 2021, I think, and that's right when COVID hit. I remember going to a bar after the game and seeing Rudy Gobert, player for the Jazz, touching all the microphones and making fun of what everybody thought was some type of joke. And then all of a sudden the world is shut down for like a year and a half, 2 years. It felt like, and now here we are again. St. Mary's gets their opportunity, but they come in as the 8th seed.
See, I thought you meant you saw Rudy Gobert in person for a second. I was like,
no.
whoa, where? No, but second of all, what an opportunity for the Huskies to kind of get a second chance. You know, you get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and here you are, national tournament, Andrew. This is the stage doesn't get bigger for these kids. And, well, they have a chance. It's one and done, like most U Sports tournaments are. They probably do have a relegation bracket for the losers, so you're not coming out here to play one game and then going home. But for St. Mary's, if you don't want to go into that losers bracket and you want to win and you want to move forward, as much as you are going up against this 1 seed, these games can go either way because it's not a playoff series. It's not like you have two teams going up against each other for 7 games and whichever, like, the best team will obviously come out on top. This is one game where, like, mistakes can be made and things can go either way. So the Huskies, St. Mary's Huskies, be that, have a very good chance, as well as much as they're coming in as the 8th seed against the 1 seed in Sask. I do think there could be a very good chance that the Huskies pull off the upset against Saskatchewan.
The Huskies versus the Huskies, Scotiabank Center on a Thursday night. And if they win this one, if St. Mary's can pull it off, they don't play till Saturday night. They go right to the semifinals, of course, and they have a pretty good chance to punch their ticket because, of course, you upset, and there's no reseeding, right, Dayton, with how this works. So you knock off the number 1 seed, all of a sudden you end up being kind of the top dog in the tournament. So hopefully they get a good crowd. The game goes at 7 p.m., so a little under 2 hours. Scotiabank Center will be rocking and rolling. I'll be in attendance. I'll be snapping pictures. I'll be live tweeting from the Halifax Sports Talk account. You guys can follow along with me as well. But look, you've got some great players on both teams. You've got healthy rosters. St. Mary's has gotten more healthy with this time. And I will remind people, as Dayton has reminded people as well, when St. John, the Sea Dogs, hosted the Mem Cup, they got bounced in the first round of the QMJHL playoffs, and they ended up winning the Memorial Cup. It's possible. It is possible to pull this off. So St. Mary's versus Saskatchewan. It's a great team, Saskatchewan. We've obviously talked about it. 6-0. They did not lose a playoff game en route to Halifax for the Nationals. Can they pull it off? We will find out in 2 hours' time, but cannot wait for it. I'll be live tweeting. I'll post some pictures for us. And once again, we got that cool bet boost. If you want St. Mary's to win, don't bet it anywhere else. Bet it with us, the Halifax Sports Talk boost at plus 200 odds.
Andrew, I just want to bring this up because you mentioned the Gardner McDougall thing. The St. John Sea Dogs are doing it again this year. This time, they picked up Acadia head coach Darren Burns for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. So Burnsy up on the bench for the Dogs. He obviously is the father of Brady Burns, a big name here in the Valley for Acadia. So, yeah, I don't know what the St. John Sea Dogs plan is, but maybe they plan on doing the same thing they did back in 2021. Andrew, I looked at the schedule for this U Sports tournament, and there's one team that kind of surprises me, and that's the Windsor Lancers. Last year, Windsor, I was calling their playoff series when they rolled through U of T last year, and it was a easy 2-0 sweep for the Varsity Blues. They were all over this Windsor team, and Windsor couldn't really get anything to go. And now I look back this year, and Windsor's here in the U Sports National Tournament. I'd just like to know what happened to this Windsor team, whether it be a couple of fresh pairs between the or between the pipes, or if it's a young new stud that's lifted them all the way to the national championship. But I'm going to have to do some research here on this Windsor Lancers team because that interests me a lot. From going to swept in the first round of the OUA playoffs last year to national championship material, I don't know, something has to be up there.
Yeah, I guess they make some moves, but I got some good news for you, Dayton. They won 4-2 earlier today, so they're all set. They're moving on. They punched their ticket. So good news is with St. Mary's being the host team, they get to be the headliner. So there's actually been games already going on this afternoon. Windsor, a team that I feel like all they have to do is get to the dance, and they always seem to be a team that makes some noise. Yeah,
they were a big team last year. They were a team that could move the puck. Someone that caught my eye, I liked his name too, David Jesus. He's a very big defenseman, and he's able to skate and move the puck with a lot of speed. And they had a couple of guys last year. I do know that one of their top goaltenders actually moved on, so there is a possibility that they picked up some new kid out of Major Junior in Ontario and they signed him, and he's carried them all this way. But yeah, it's something I'll have to look into and do a little bit of digging. But like you said, there's been some games already. I did see the Instagram post that the U Sports posted earlier. They posted a little schedule for all the AUS teams. I'm excited. I want to see how UNB does. UNB actually has a former Moosehead on the team, Braden McPhee. He was a fan favorite in Halifax. So I can tell you right now, when the Reds roll through the Scotiabank Center, it's going to get loud.
Yeah, they loved him. I saw he was touring around, checking out the new locker room and such. So he was a fan favorite as well. I liked watching the way he plays.
Yeah, he's probably thinking, why do you build this when I leave, right?
Yeah, you wait till he gets out of here. The guy puts his blood, sweat, and tears into the team, and they go and get a new locker room when he gets out of here. All right, the last topic, and we'll keep you guys up to date. Like if St. Mary's wins, you guys can look for more content from us here, and we're going to try and go live a lot more. And actually, speaking of live, Dayton, you and I have been talking about this for weeks. Schedule's out there for the Halifax Mooseheads. We're gonna know when they're on the road. We're gonna know when they're at home. So whether it's live watch-alongs or whether it's live post-game shows, you guys can find us right here on Halifax Sports Talk on X and on YouTube as well. And speaking of this Mooseheads team, Dayton, look, we've talked all year about this team. For people that are just discovering us, we've been optimistic, but a lot of it's just been about the consistency here. They have punched their ticket to the playoffs, obviously. There's some seeding stuff, figuring out who goes where. But they're closing it out here. One of the big series for them is on the Rock against the Newfoundland Regiment. And this Newfoundland team's been fun to watch. They've also given their fans a show. But the last time they were in Newfoundland didn't go very well, didn't. I remember you and I having this podcast together saying that's a tough way to go out. That second game, they seem to have gotten blasted here. How do you think they do this weekend?
Andrew, I think if I remember correctly, it was a blowout for the Mooseheads.
Oh,
and then
right.
the next day, it was a blowout for the Regiment. So both teams just blew each other out. It was like 7 or 8-5 or something for the Mooseheads the first night. And then, like, I don't know, the Mooseheads got their butts handed to them the second night. I know that for sure. First, I just want to say this. If Mooseheads fans are looking to get to any action here in Halifax, playoff tickets are out yesterday. So go grab those because they're probably already gone. Even though we don't know who they're going to be facing, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Moncton, and the fans are going to be happy and all over that. If it's a playoff series against the Cats, then, well, we know how it's probably going to go. I don't want to say it as much as I hate to say it because, the Mooseheads fans are thinking back to last year when they took down Drummondville in 7 games and then moved on. But you get a team that's coached by Gardner McDougall. You look at all the firepower, Rudy Guimond between the pipes. He's looking to go back to the Mem Cup just like last year. It's going to be so tough to beat this Moncton team, Andrew. So, and I can't even say I hope they don't match up with them because if they don't, then they're matching up with Chicoutimi, who's almost better. So, like, it's so tough.
And from rivalry purposes, it would be such an atmosphere. Fans traveling to Moncton fans traveling to Halifax. It'll be huge. But, yeah, I was wrong about that. Well, right and wrong, because like you said, there's one team got blown out one game, one team got blown out the other, and it's been a big thing we've talked about lately. They had that 2-parter against the Sea Dogs. They had the 2-parter against the Eagles. So can you play consistent hockey, not even just the W's, but can you string together 2 good games in a row, right? Don't give us one good one and one bad one. Let's see if we can get 2 quality outings in a row from the Halifax Mooseheads. What a weekend we're in store for. It's only Thursday. We've got the Huskies tonight trying to take down the number 1 seed, Saskatchewan Huskies. Thunderbirds. Jeremy's optimistic. That means we're optimistic. And, of course, the Halifax Mooseheads. So that will do it, but stay tuned, guys, for more content. And once again, the Cool Bet Boost. If anybody wants to hop on board, you're going to be at the game tonight. You want to cheer on the St. Mary's Huskies a little bit more. Don't bet it anywhere else. Plus 175, boosted to plus 200. That's the HFX Sports Talk Boost. You guys can get that only available at Cool Bet Canada. Make sure you guys use the promo code SPORTS200 when you sign up. You'll get a free $200 in bonus bets right to your account. That will do it for the show, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We are here with you twice a week at least, and coming up, we're going to have a lot more content. Hey, Dayton, we're not really optimistic about the playoff series, but we're going to do our best to cover it as well as we can.
Yeah, I agree. Optimistic? Who knows? Gonna be there for it? Yes.
Good content. Good content for us, that's for sure. Thanks for watching, guys. Anybody watching on X, do us a favor. Follow the account. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're posting at least twice a week. That will do it for Halifax Sports Talk. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next time.